Okay, welcome back, everybody. Before we begin, take a brief moment and take a look in your notes about the shutdown rule. I'm going to pause or press pause on the video, and then after you look at your notes on the shutdown rule, then come back. Okay, welcome back. Now, the shutdown rule applies to the idea that the firm, even if they're making losses in the short run, still might be producing. Of course, the overall broader story is that in the long run, if they're making economic profits, they're going to produce. If they're making losses in the long run, the firms are going to exit. And it does so in such a way that it drives profits to normal profits, zero profit in the long run. In the short run, however, though, firms might be making losses may continue to produce so long as they're covering the variable costs. Okay, what is the implication of this? Of the story about profits and losses, the story about profits, and then the inclusion of the shutdown rule on our graph story. If I put the cost curves, and here are the three cost curves, we have the marginal cost, average total cost, and now the average variable cost, which is going to play a role when we think about that shutdown rule. And suppose we get the market price over here on the left from the market. You can imagine a side-by-side graph, and then we're getting this price from the market. Okay, the market is setting the price. This is a competitive market. Now, that price line is the marginal revenue. Remember and recall Mr. Darp. So where does marginal revenue and marginal cost cross? Well, right at that red dot. Okay. Well, let's apply the first threshold. Is that price greater than average cost at this profit maximizing quantity? Well, no, the price is less. This firm would be making a loss. But should they produce here? Well, look at the threshold of price compared to average variable cost. This is the kind of the criteria regarding the shutdown rule or not. Well, they are covering their average variable costs, i.e. they are ignoring their sunk costs, and so they should produce. Yes, they're going to make a loss, but they'd be minimizing their losses in the short run. So at this point, they would still produce. How about if the market price wasn't there, but the market price is here instead? Where would the firm produce? Well, where does MR and MC cross? It would be right here at this red dot. And note at this red dot, this profit maximizing quantity, the same two thresholds apply. Like the firm would make a loss because the price is less than average cost, but they should still produce because price is greater than the average variable cost. What if the market price were here instead? This would be the profit maximizing production level, this red dot, because this is where MR and MC cross. And the same two criteria would apply there, or we would use that same threshold. The firm would be making losses, but they'd minimize their losses by producing. What if the market price is right here at the bottom of average variable cost? Well, they'd be indifferent to producing here, in fact. Actually, if they produce, they'd make the same as if they didn't produce. We could say thus that they are. What about at this point? Okay, if the market price were so low that it's down here, here would be the profit maximizing quantity where MR and MC cross. MR is the blue line, the Mr. Darp line. MC, the black, the Nike swoosh. So this would be the profit maximizing level of production. They would definitely be making their losses, but if they produced here, they would be making more losses than they would be. So they should, if they were producing, so they should shut down. Like, apply the shutdown rule here. Is the price greater than the average variable cost? Well, no, it's not. The price is less than the average variable cost. And then you would apply the shutdown rule. So the firm would shut down at this point. They would not produce at that bottom red dot. However, what if the market price were way up here? If the market price is way up here, marginal revenue and marginal cost cross right at that red dot. That would be the profit maximizing level of production. Hey, would this firm be making a loss? Well, no. This firm is making profits. How do we know they're making profits? Because at this price, the price is greater than the average total cost. And so thus they're making profits. Now look at something actually interesting if we look at the whole picture. Step back for a moment and look at the whole picture. If this were the profit maximizing price, if this were the profit maximizing price, etc., if these were the profit maximizing quantity and prices, and let me go back here for a second. If the market price rises, the profit maximizing quantity is increasing. as the price rises set by the market, note that at all of those quantities, the market quantities or the quantities that this firm is profit maximizing is increasing. What does that sound an awful lot like? As the price rises, quantity increases. That sounds like the idea and the logic behind the supply curve. And in fact, we just sort of derived what is, if we were to sum up all of the marginal cost curves from a typical firm, and if we were to sum them up, that is the marginal cost curve becomes the supply curve. These are prices set by the market in the law of supply states. As prices rise, quantities increase. And now what this gives us is some of the reasons behind that. And let me state it again. So what does the law of supply state? It states as the prices rise, quantity supplied increases. Well, it does so because those are profit maximizing quantities that are increasing as the price rises. And that's it. And so we would define the supply curve above the average variable cost. If you see how that is that the horizontal portion of here, we usually don't draw that horizontal portion, but you have the upward sloping supply curve, which begins at the bottom of the average variable cost and does kind of our normal supply curve shape. Okay, so what we did there, overall, we looked at the shutdown rule and its application with the cost curves, and then an interesting connection as it is the derivation of a market supply curve.